Hello, leader. It's Shannon with Team KLC here, welcoming you to another fabulous episode of the Fierce Factor podcast. This week, we are bringing another live expert guest session with one of our awe-inspiring Powerhouse Pop Leadership Academy members. If you ever wondered what kind of women join our programs, what kind of conversations we have, and what it's like working with our team, then I think you'll love this behind-the-scenes conversation highlighting the real-life stories of scrappy founders creating lucrative, deeply fulfilling, life-first businesses. Without further ado, please enjoy this episode of the Fierce Factor podcast.
Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. So today we're having our guest expert series. So for those of you that are new to these sessions, once a month, we interview someone in our academy, someone that's so interesting and so dynamic and so brilliant that everybody needs to know more about her. And we feature her story on the Fierce Factor podcast. And so I asked Hilary Baer Hogan to join us today as our guest. Hilary, how long have you been with us? About, I want to say 9 months in my head.
Well, I feel like it's been longer because I've been listening to the podcast since last May. And however, like as a true Academy member, I have been part since last August. So that's,
okay.
9 months.
Yeah. My instincts, right? So yeah, about 9 months. So, what's so cool is like getting to learn about each other in these group sessions by like experiencing feedback and like the stories and the questions they ask. And it's funny that you, Laura, brought up her wallpaper because she, for the good first few months, was having calls from her car because there was no actually physical space for her to have her coaching calls. So with this, we're very proud of the wallpaper. So thank you for recognizing because this is
like seen. Beautiful.
Dude, she feels seen. She feels seen.
I feel seen.
She's the queen of details. And that is part of the reason why I asked her to join me today for this interview. So I think Shan will pin the two of us and we'll kind of have this sort of interview style. I have some questions that I'll ask Hilary, and we're just going to have a conversation. And what I love about doing this live with you guys is that for those of you that are in here experiencing this interview in real time, is that you can pop questions into the chat and I can ask her so we can just really keep her on her toes this whole time. No pressure.
Thanks, Kaylee.
She asked me for a list of questions and I told her no, because here's the thing. Some of you guys are like just so detail oriented and spot on and meticulous about things that you would not even allow yourself to the freedom to not have a prepped, perfect answer to my question. And I know this about this woman. And so I was like, I'll give you a framework of what I want to talk about, but like I got to just hear, I want to hear the deep, like raw, juicy Hilary, like that. This is what the people want.
Okay, yeah. You got it.
Okay.
Raw and juicy, like my steak.
Hot and juicy like steak. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to jump in. And like I said, anybody who has questions, feel free to ask in the chat at any point in time. I'm now signed out of my whole system here. So with your bio. So let me relog back into my drive so that unless Shan, maybe you want to pop it. I'm going to Shannon, can you, oh wait, I probably will still have to re-sign back in. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. Technology here.
This is so surreal. I feel like 9 months ago, I was listening to your just arsenal of profound interviews with Leslie Fletcher and Nicola Lowry, and feeling like completely humbled by these incredible careers in aesthetic medicine. So this is a very surreal moment to be interviewed on live in front of all of these amazing, brilliant Academy members.
Okay. And you're so humble. And this is also something I love about you. you've had just epic success and growth. And I don't mean like obnoxious growth, you guys, because I think sometimes we mistake like, wow, you've grown. Look at all this just, like perfection of expansion, the physical growth. Like that's one part of it. And I want to talk about that because you've had some very interesting physical movement with your practice, but also just like the internal growth, the growth in building, like going deep and building infrastructure and putting like the deep work in and like building such a strong foundation as a leader that is going to continue to allow you to propel. And from the lens that I have, I just think you're the perfect model, honestly, of like, showing up and doing the work and being willing to ask the unsexy questions that other people want the answers to, but are afraid to ask. And I think that's a gift of yours. And you're like, hold on, like, can I just ask this question? And I think that's what it takes, right? It's sort of like, I've kind of been thinking this or feeling this, and I'm just going to put it all out there. So I'm going to go ahead and read, Hilary, your bio just to make sure I cover all of the nuts and bolts of who you are, and then we'll kind of kick off with our conversation. So Hilary Baer Hogan's journey to founding Bare Skin Marin was deeply personal. In the wake of losing her mother to brain cancer, she used grief as rocket fuel to launch her medical aesthetics practice, determined to build something meaningful. Repeatedly described as lightning in a bottle, love that, Bare Skin Marin has won multiple awards since its inception in 2022. Hilary attributes Bare Skin Marin's rapid success to a deep intentionality behind building a winning team. Her trademark techniques, skin to structure, talk about this, the release, and liftover lines are novel to the medical aesthetics landscape and the reason patients travel from out of town to receive care at Bare Skin Marin. Hilary graduated from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor with various academic honors and earned her BSN and MSN from Columbia University School of Nursing. A lifelong artist, she has earned numerous awards for her artwork, including recognition from the California State Senate. Proud to call Marin County home, Hilary resides in Marin County, California, with her husband, 2 sons, and their red toy poodle, Brooklyn. So, what a beautiful bio. So much in that. That is, I appreciate everything that you put into that bio because it really it explains a lot about who you are and your story. And I kind of want to start there, particularly about your story and the story of your mother and your inspiration for starting Bare Skin Marin. So can you share a little bit about you, your business, and how you got started?
Sure. So one of my first jobs out of nursing school was with an endocrinologist who specialized in women's hair loss and other androgenic disorders. And it was there that I experienced firsthand the profound impact that improving a woman or patient's overall aesthetic or perception of her own beauty could have on her overall health. When these women would come to her office, they were less interested in like, what are my lab values, but like, how's my hair doing? And it was at that point that I realized the transformation that could happen in a person through that aesthetic journey. So I continued down this road. My parents are actually both come from have a background in medicine, and they were like, you don't want to do aesthetics. You don't want to do that. It's not real medicine. But I always felt a pull to that. So I decided in 2014 to take my first injecting course. I loved it. And in 2016, I joined a med spa where I practiced in aesthetic medicine full time, and I never looked back. So I was there for a number of years. I got to a point to leave, and I spent a little time in a couple other med spas where I learned something a little bit different in each. And it was really when my mom got sick that I needed some sort of outlet to channel all of my love for her and this grief of her loss into something special. And that got us to 2022 when I eventually opened the doors to Bare Skin Marin. And I can continue on, but I'll take a breath.
No, and thank goodness you did. So what do you say? It's interesting, this whole like real medicine idea, and that even came from your parents. What do you say to people now who say to you aesthetics is not real medicine?
Yeah. So my dad is an oncologist. He retired about a month ago after a 45-year career in treating patients for cancer. And he always described it as the true intersection between science and human drama. And like, let's be real. Anyone in aesthetic medicine knows firsthand that we are truly at the intersection of science and human drama. So many of our patients find us at extremely powerful milestones in life, whether it's preparing for a wedding, trying to power up the persona in the boardroom or on Zoom, recuperating from having children. I mean, these are the real life moments that define us and are truly involve that intersection of science and human drama.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I have to say for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're right, Hilary. He's like, you do the right thing for yourself.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's relation. I mean, human drama, I mean, it's building relationships and confidence with people. And like that also underpins a lot of what your dad does in oncology as well. I went through chemo with my mother and I know what that did to her psyche and how that made her feel as a woman, So, but what a beautiful support system you had of two parents who taught you, how to be a healer and, like that side of medicine, obviously. So you started in 2022. I would love to talk about, there's a story you told me on one of our first conversations about relocating, your first relocation.
Oh, this is a good one. Yeah. So when I first launched Bare Skin Marin, it was just me. And I didn't have a clear person in mind to help me run this practice. And so I enlisted the help of a business services platform that offered to take care of the medical directorship, legal compliance, the providing of consumable product in exchange for a percentage of the practice. And it was just like a very accelerated, easy way to get set up. And so I used that and it definitely served its purpose. But I got to a point where they were no longer necessary in the running the day-to-day. My sister joined me as head of operations. And so the two of us were able to take on a lot of what they were doing themselves. And so I tendered my letter of resignation and they immediately evicted me from the office. They locked me out of medical records and they started soliciting my patient panel to a local practice that was about 5 minutes down the street. So that caused a panic. And of course,
and they locked you out of your building. So you literally had to show up.
They evicted me. I was in the middle of seeing patients that day. And it was also the first day that my new clinician was starting. So she gets an email saying, you can't come in to sorry, you're fired from this business services platform. And my sister and I are like, oh my God, what is going on? I can't even access medical records. What are we going to do? So we just kind of pushed up our arms and we're like, this is what we have to do. So it's really hot out. We start walking down the street, looking at all of the lease signs, where to set up shop. Fast forward, we ended up moving right into an office that looked peered down into my old studio. And we were able to start seeing patients 3 days later. We got some floors installed really fast over the weekend. It was all hands on deck operation. And we just made it happen. And it shows when you're in a state of duress, you can you can get really scrappy and make things happen.
Yeah, and that's grit, right? And that's someone asked me the other day, what does it take, to start and build a successful business? And I was like, hustle.
Yeah.
It just takes you got to just figure it out, right? You have to figure it out and be resourceful. And I love that that's when people think about growth and momentum. And, this wasn't oh, I started and then we just kept, it was like, no, I started and then completely had to restart my business and like figure it all out again. Right. And so I love that.
And also like putting on that face of confidence, I was really scared. Yeah. I also felt an immense responsibility to my team. And if like all of a sudden we could be at the whims of someone else's decision and just like, try to like undermine our success, like how am I supposed to navigate? So we were able to reclaim control there and turn it around in a really short amount of time. Yeah. It kind of felt like a rise from the ashes story. We had an event a few weeks later that was like a raging success. I think people like love to be a part of like, oh my God, she was so wrong, which I was. And then there was a pride in being a part of that story.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Something I've admired about you and been really impressed about is as a young business owner, your ability to set and hold extraordinarily high standards of excellence in everything that you do. And I think we all think we do, right? And it's so much easier said than done because especially early on, we tend to make a lot of exceptions in our business. We're trying to fill books. So we're like, okay, I'll make pricing exceptions or I'll loosen my boundaries on certain things. We eke by with just good enough employees. We're partnering with anybody and everybody with a pulse who can refer patients. And your approach has been very different. In fact, you've been willing to turn down lucrative growth opportunities and endorsements and things that haven't aligned with your brand to really hold this high standard. So I'm wondering where this confidence comes from. You mentioned that you worked in other med spas. Is it like that you just didn't want to do that and be that? Or is there something else that has just given you this level of confidence that's like, this is who I am and I'm not going to settle?
That's a really interesting question. Thank you for that question. I'd like to take a pause to think about that.
There's no rush.
I think, first of all, like I've always been very reflective about what makes me happy and what doesn't. And I'm an oldest sibling, and I think as an oldest sibling, you're just kind of like you inherently have a certain level of confidence as like the older, wiser one. I was also always very observant of my parents growing up, and they both were full-time physicians, and so my sisters and I were all latchkey kids to a large extent. And I realized I didn't want that for my own life. I wanted to be more present with my own family, and I wanted to have more space for work-life balance. And so like, and like I knew that at my core at a really young age. So when I started Bare Skin Marin, I did that so I could take care of patients in the way that I knew would best serve them. And in that first year, there was so much growth that I didn't know how to create. I didn't have a structure around my time. I was getting home. I was like starting at 8:30, getting home at 7:30 or 8. And I was completely depleted on the weekends. There was like, just like we talk about energetic capacity, like there was just nothing left in my energetic capacity to give to these parts of my life outside of Bare Skin Marin. And so I knew that there was a misalignment. I just knew that. I think it's because I came into it with that clear idea of what I wanted my life to look like. And so I know I just needed help in creating that. And that's where I think where working with you has come in is, okay, so I know what that vision for my life is. How do I like actually like on a granular level, like make that happen? So, we can back up for a second. Patients coming in, I'm in the office doing all the things, all hours, not a sustainable model for my own happiness or life. So then I hired Rachel, brought Rachel in to oversee operations. We outsourced phone calls and started like plugging in people to take some of these components off of my plate that didn't need to be there, so that I could also still have space for these other very important parts of my life. Mm-hmm. Like the boys and my husband and friends and exercise.
Mm-hmm. It's funny how I was also very much a latchkey oldest sibling. And like I have a home office. No, so
Right?
it's funny how we do this yin yang thing with our our lives, right? Like my grandkids probably are going to have no supervision whatsoever. So would you, and let me frame this question, because something about you is like you set a goal and you have a vision for what success is, and you're sort of relentless in the pursuit of achieving that. And when we talk about high standards, you have high expectations, in particular for yourself. And as I've gotten to know you in coaching, sometimes when we have high expectations, it's hard. Those expectations are hard to be met. So my first question for you is, would you call yourself a perfectionist?
Yeah, in some ways, I've been called that before. But then you'd see this drawer and it's not very organized. So I don't even want to show you on the video. So yes, in some ways, I am compulsive about patient outcomes. Compulsive. It like keeps me up at night, like getting the before and after photos, like just perfect. If there's any little shadow or something that can improve a patient's outcome, I am absolutely neurotic in that capacity. But I don't have space to be a perfectionist in all facets of my life. They're just the ones that I find so important. And this one with patient care is an area in which I am neurotically perfectionistic.
And how do you let go of those other things then, like the drawer?
I don't even see it anymore.
Huh.
I think that, yeah, I don't know. It's like almost tunnel vision on what's on my priorities. And so I don't see the other things.
I'm exactly the same way. Are you guys in this room that same way too? Like there's certain like I am a hot mess in a lot of areas in my life. And then there's certain people that wouldn't know that side of me, would have no clue and would be in complete shock.
I mean, some days my sister's like, how do you function in the world? That is so reassuring. Yeah. Hilary, to hear that. Yeah. Hear you say that.
Oh, I can't do anything for myself. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's like, yes, this is what we were like. We just discovered.
I didn't see any nods. Are other people like that?
I mean, yeah.
Anyone? Everyone know like I'm just perfect all around.
Okay. Oh my gosh, this is such like a moment here. Yeah. I literally can't even choose off the menu at restaurants. Drives my sister crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's I think that's part of like self-awareness of like doing the things that we know we need to do at the highest level possible. Like we're diverting all of our energy into that. One example is I'm not on the mom like my husband's on the mom text. Like it's like, don't ask a mom who doesn't know me will come up and be like, hey, what's the tournament schedule on Saturday? Who are we playing the second game? And I'm like, wrong. No.
Haley, I feel so seen. My nickname is Venmo Mom. Because I can't. Chris, like, you didn't see that text message? I was like, where? He's like, on the WhatsApp chain. I'm like, which one? There's like 4. There's like 8. He's like, you didn't see my husband is the soccer manager for my boys' soccer teams. Makes them like stand a little taller. And then I show up late and they're like, didn't you know what time to get here, Hilary? Like, your husband's the manager of the soccer team.
Yeah, same.
Like, there's certain things I'm like really good at. And then everything else is kind of background noise. I'll be there. I'll get there. But like, I might not know exactly what time all the kids' sporting events are that weekend. I'm going to go, but I have to be okay empowering other people in my life to take care of those things so I can focus on like where my heart is, which is patient care and those clinical.
How, because I do think that is part of, right, if you having high standards, and high expectations in certain areas, right, that we value, right? And it's like upholding those values at any cost. So my question to you is, as someone with high standards, how has this served you and or challenged you as a leader?
Oh, such a good question. So I think that my answer is going to help a lot of med spa owners or individuals in aesthetics because who are trying to bring on team and expand their clinical capacity. So for me, the way that this has tried me is when you're training new injectors or new clinicians in how to provide aesthetic services and making sure that their outcomes are on par with outcomes that you yourself can deliver. So being really clear and creating protocols around what's required to achieve that clinical outcome so that we know like this is done and the outcome will be second to none. We are also very regimented in the consultation that we deliver. So patient presentation is translated into into objective criteria to prioritize next steps for treatment. And then I'm going to keep going with this. So additional ways that we ensure a certain standard of excellence is we do pre-assessment for our patients. So if patients inquire about treatment, we provide a cursory pre-assessment of what might be needed. And then we're therefore able to funnel that individual into the clinician who is well trained on what that patient needs. So like, for example, let's say like not everyone has the same capability delivering an effective consultation that translates into a year-long treatment plan.
Mm-hmm.
The pre-assessment comes in because we have someone who can see the patient and write out a framework for what that patient needs ahead of time, and then just plug it into a clinician who is great at the execution of a treatment, but might not have as much of that global vision for a year-long plan. And that's been really powerful for us.
And this is done virtually?
So this is done, yes, that's done over text message.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily the entire consultation, but it just provides a framework to get people started. I found that the patient outcome is only as good as their trust in the practice and your brand. And therefore, by inspiring confidence at specific milestones, it enables the patient to continue forward with that same level of enthusiasm.
Mm.
So after each milestone, whether it's like the talks, and then we do a progress assessment, and then you're done with your laser treatment. Now, laser treatment is multiple sessions. There's never one laser session because that will deliver a subpar outcome. So then the laser treatment is complete and there's another progress assessment. So we have like a lot of like milestone checks to ensure a certain level of excellence has been delivered. And if not, then we can make sure we're doing what we need to get that patient's outcome extraordinary.
Hey, leader, I know the journey to building your greatest potential can feel overwhelming. You're setting big goals, navigating resistance, and trying to stay true to who you are in the process. That's exactly why I created the Fierce Factor Society. This isn't just another membership, it's a launch pad where ambitious women like us come together to grow, lead, and thrive. It's a space to take those big dreams and make them real step by step with the support and tools you need to succeed. If you've ever felt like you were made for more but didn't know exactly which step to take next, the Society is your space to access the tools, strategies, and support to unlock your next level of leadership. Let's do this together. Visit klcconsultants.com/Fierce Factor Society to learn more. Can't wait to see you there. So question is, does this pre-assessment, is this different from a consultation you would have in your practice?
It's a pre-assessment is just that. It's pre to a consultation.
Okay.
So it is the general outline of what this individual needs before we have a deeper understanding of their lifestyle and their medical predispositions and so on.
So I think this is a good place to sort of weave in the conversation about your proprietary methods. This is an anchor philosophy that we teach in Confidence to Scale at KLC, and you've like run with it like nobody else I've I know it's actually incredible because it's really easy to talk about and it's really hard to do and to build a business with a structure that can support that. And I think that's helpful for people that are like, oh, it's another pre-assessment. That can, I think, sound good, but can create a lot of complexity in the client journey. Talk about the proprietary method and how you're using that pre-assessment to essentially warm the patient up to this is the way that we do business around here.
Yeah. So again, the patient outcome is only going to be as successful as their confidence in your ability to deliver that outcome.
Okay. Can you repeat that? Repeat that statement.
Okay. The patient's outcome is only as good as their confidence in your brand's ability to deliver upon that outcome.
Right. And the expectation of what that outcome would be, right? So
That's
their
right.
confidence in your system and the delivery mechanism, basically.
Yeah. It's really overwhelming to be a consumer in this day and age of aesthetic medicine. Like every other week, there's a new modality that's like the best thing since sliced bread. So how do we make sense of that and create a framework that supports the patient along their aesthetic journey? That's where this idea behind creating Skin to Structure came from. And it allows them to understand our philosophy behind aesthetic medicine and show them tangible milestones at each step of the way, which helps cultivate enthusiasm to get to the next level.
If you think about it like anything in life, that's like a big goal, right? I always go to I've just been, as you guys have been very public about this, it's been like the first part of the year has not been January in the gym for me. But I'm on it now. I'm on top of it. And I'm like, it's such a bummer when you eat so clean and you're so disciplined, the next day you see just as much flab in the mirror. Right. And because it's consistency in time and progress over time. So essentially this is what's coming to mind for me is I'm showing you what the result's going to look like. And I'm also helping you set the expectation that it's not going to be an overnight situation. And here are these, and then coming in and saying, hey, Kaylee, look, but how much water weight you've lost, or look at how the muscle mass has gone up or whatever. And all these other indicators of things that are happening along the way for your patient on their aesthetic journey to feel like you're connected, you're involved and engaged with them along that process and that they're moving in the right direction, even though they can't maybe necessarily see the full outcome right away.
Totally.
Yeah.
Did that answer the question? I feel like I got a little distracted and maybe, did you want to answer? I
thought you did a great job answering that question.
Okay,
another question that came in is in terms of who on your team and how you navigate the consultation process. You do all those initial assessments. Is that something that you're able to delegate? And maybe this would change over time, but.
So we've hired someone remotely to do that who's really experienced and skilled in providing those pre-assessments. And it's also helped us navigate this bottleneck where prior to implementing pre-assessment, all patients needed to go. I was the only one who could complete a consultation in a compelling way, which meant that no patient was going to move on to their laser treatments or this or that until they were seeing me for their consultation. But by removing me out of that bottleneck and then doing pre-assessment, we're then able to funnel patients to a clinician who can perform that tactical component very well.
I think that's a common challenge for provider founder owners who are hiring and delegating to other team members, that the consultation piece of it is so important. And it's such a big part of the sales part of the business, right? Of getting the buy-in, setting the expectation, and then getting that patient to just say yes to all the things and build that trust. And so I think that that's a really common, tension point and point of frustration for a lot of providers, that it's hard for them to get out of trusting somebody else to give a consult at the level of which they do. And so it's almost that's one way where you're not you're not totally delegating it out. You're keeping sort of that framework, but there's a little bit of looseness in the sense that and I think that's where those the packaging, like the selling outcomes versus the actual treatments is huge, because you're able to assess what is the biggest problem that this patient has, and you can put them down that path, right? So
totally.
Okay, so there's so many questions for you.
Yeah, please bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah. So one question or a comment mostly, like, I'm in the bottleneck currently, so I love that this has worked for you. So I think it's like, especially feeling sometimes getting through that, and it's probably sticky for a while and ugly, right? Before it gets perfected, so to speak.
And also, like, you want all of your entire clinical team to be able to conduct a really effective consultation. And some people have the greater vision for how to move that patient through the journey, but not everyone does. So, like, how do you create a place for all of these players? And doing pre-assessment has allowed us to navigate that and really equal the playing field.
And then there was one more question on that, and then we'll move on. Sure. But do new patients build rapport or trust with this person? Or are they more just behind the scenes reviewing their wants, needs photos and assigning them the right clinician for their initial consult?
Yeah, they're more behind the scenes. They're not on site. So they're the patient concierge. So they know this person by first name because of their text message exchange and email exchange, but she's not someone who's physically on site. But we make sure that we communicate, that we all collaborate on the patient journey. We are all always talking about our patient population and who's where, so that we can make sure that we're all aligned in what that individual needs. It's kind of like doing your huddle on the nursing floor in the morning to make sure that, like, all the beds have someone assigned and all the patients are getting what they need and when. It's the same thing for how we approach patient care at Bare Skin Marin, so that there is a standard of excellence upheld.
Well, and reading between the lines here too, this is one thing that a lot of people have challenge with, right? Is like distinguishing whether this is going to be like a really great patient or not. Like, is this somebody who's actually going to walk and sit in my chair and be like, I trust you, do whatever, I'm with you, like, I'm here for you? Or is this somebody who is price shopping, or who's like just dipping their toe in, or gonna, and so I think this is one way, right? That this folds back into the brand positioning conversation and what you stand for as a company. This process is your way of identifying and specifically, like connecting with the type of patient who's looking for a long-term result and outcome, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think work and our professional life is like holding up a mirror to our inner psyche, and like allows us to express like what we want for ourselves and like what's meaningful to ourselves. And what's meaningful to me is to be able to deliver extraordinary outcomes to patients that like move them emotionally in their lives. Mm-hmm. And I cannot do that with 20 units of Botox. And so I know that is like a misalignment with my own, with what's meaningful to me. And so I've structured Bare Skin Marin in a way that we can find patients who are aligned with what's meaningful to me personally. I hope that makes sense.
I think that sounds like a dream for most people, but it's very scary to execute.
It is, yeah. But then it perpetuates. It perpetuates.
Tell me more.
Sure. So whatever you put out there on social media is what's going to come through your door. Period. If you put only lips, then you're going to get inquiries about just lips. If you post $10 Botox deals, then that's all that's going to come through your door. But if you are only posting about the investing in the long term and the long-lasting, impactful, low-maintenance outcomes that can come by way of this journey, and then you show them examples of that transformation, and those are the people who will come through your door.
Yeah. Have you had any patients who have come in asking for skin to structure or any of your
all the time
trademarked?
all the time.
methods. Wow.
Yes. I know it's really wild. It's amazing.
Well, it's validating.
Like that is taking out the work, like half the work, right? Because like now we already know that we're a good fit.
It's brilliant marketing. It is the next level of understanding your most valuable buyers and actually being a business who caters and serves to them at the highest level. Because we instinctively like, I'll give a really practical question. When you bring in a new device, how do you market that?
Yeah.
When you're talking about a proprietary method and long-term results.
Are you asking me how I do this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't just go out buying random devices because I've been so intentional about the technology that we bring in. I'm based in Marin County, which is about 10, 15 minutes north of San Francisco. It's an affluent community. It's a very like outdoorsy, like people are biking and hiking. We've got like a lot of like Ironman triathlete type of patients, and who do not have the bandwidth or the schedule for being cooped up with a lot of downtime. So that said, like people are really invested in the best looking skin possible. So we've brought on technology that is compatible with like no downtime, still improving the skin quality and overall glow. Just being very intentional about like what is our patient population. And like the reality is like I, myself, and our team are our core demographic. It's like we know what we want. We know what we need, what works in our life. And then we provide that.
But you're still, I guess, to my point of like, nothing changes basically is what you're saying. Nothing changes. Right. We decide to bring in another device, or it's a new product or whatever. We're not following trends. We're still talking about the core outcomes that we provide through our proprietary methodology.
Yes. Nothing changes. That's right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So you talk in your bio, I can't remember specifically at this point what you said. It says, Hilary attributes Bare Skin Marin's rapid success to a deep intentionality behind building a winning team. So I want to talk about that, about the importance of team, how you build a winning team, and what are some of the non-negotiables when it comes to team.
Totally. For me, a high emotional IQ is indispensable. People have to know how to connect with others and like read other people, like that, like be able to like read a room, read the energy of a room and calibrate appropriately. People can like form deep connections. I think that's easier for some than others. We're all healthcare. Well, we're a lot of healthcare professionals in this room right now. But it doesn't come naturally to everyone. And also people who are people who are willing to learn new things. I had hired one clinician who was objectively brilliant, photographic memory, accolades from all sorts of top, like best in class institutions, Berkeley, Columbia, but she just wanted to like stay in her little box. Like she didn't feel, she's like, I just want to do laser. Like, I don't like talk scares me. I'm like, and then I learned that, she was a midwife and hadn't practiced as a midwife for 10 years after finishing her master's. And I'm like, 10 years? Okay, full stop. You're going to learn Botox. Let's get a bunch of people on your schedule. You and I, we're going to do this and we're going to overcome that fear, because you can actually hurt someone more with laser than you can with neuromodulator. So like there's the reality and there's the perception, and we need to make sure that there's an alignment there between the fear and the reality.
Mm.
So we did that, turned out not to be a good fit. And that was one of my first team member where I was like, this was not a good values alignment. And it was actually that thereafter I helped develop more intentionality around our values and using those values to guide the hiring process.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say is like that is the value system than the non-negotiable?
Sure. So our values are soul, safety, integrity, collaboration, and all in. And so far we've used that for our next hires, and it's been working so far.
Yeah.
So far there's been more success. It's not like we like implement that and all of a sudden everything is hunky-dory and easy and smooth sailing, but it makes it a lot easier to answer questions about how to move the needle forward.
How do you, as obviously you've been building this, now we're year 3-ish.
Yeah. We'll be year 2 in May.
Year 2. Okay.
Wait, year 3 in May. You're right.
Year 3. Okay. I mean, it goes so fast, and then we all lost a year of our lives in 2020. Yeah. So it's like, who cares? It's ish. It's all ish. But point being, like it's a young business and it's a tough time. Like the first good 5-6 years are just like, to your point, roll up your sleeves. You're building, you're trying to you grow, you're trying to scale up, but then, settle in and build infrastructure and scale up and build infrastructure. Right. And you mentioned how important it was to you to be a present mom and to be really there. You love that part of your life, which is your family. So how do you grow this baby essentially, and balance that with the demands that you have as a mother and wife?
Yeah. I'm fully aware that I can't do it all myself. I cannot. I have stepped back from patient care. So I'm only seeing patients 2 days a week, and which has helped me not be the roadblock or to expanding our practice. I've created boundaries around which treatments I'll do and which treatments I won't do. So anything that someone else can do, I'm not doing that anymore. And I also know that if I have a work meeting that goes late one night, I'm home and fully present the next 2 nights. Last night, my sister and we kind of walked through the framework of some of the topics that were going to come up. And she helped me. She's like, but we also did that and did that. She's half my brain. Does anyone else have someone who's half their brain in the office? Yes. Okay. Shannon, I know. Yeah. She's actually half my brain.
Yeah.
She should be on this interview with me.
Yeah.
There is a reality.
Yes. I'm going to interview Rachel separately.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It is fun. You guys are such a yin and yang. So yeah. It is cute. You're very similar and also very different.
So different.
It's fun because Hilary will talk and then Rachel calls her out. No.
Yeah. So last night we had dinner together and we worked until 9 and I missed bedtime, which I really don't like to do, but I'm going to be around the next few nights and they will have my full and undivided attention. I'll put my phone down. It really requires an intentionality. You have to just do it. And once you get into that rhythm and ritual of just doing that, then it becomes second nature, much easier.
So you mentioned that you stepped out of patient care to basically be available 2 days a week in that role, right? And you used the word, I made an intentional decision to not be the roadblock to my business expanding. So tell me more about what you mean by that.
So I would do a lot of consultations to then funnel patients into other treatments, like their laser treatments or microneedling or peels and by doing pre-assessment, I'm not the one that's required to do that anymore. We have another way to funnel patients to where they need to go. We also have clinicians who are really well trained in all of the other modalities, so I don't have to do that. I've also been really intentional about not making myself the business. If you go to Bare Skin Marin, it's not my face everywhere, and that's by design. I'm still teasing out whether this is a good thing for the business or not. I know that people want to form a personal connection with a brand. So there might be more of me coming. But it's so important to lift up team and credential them. I make a concerted effort to highlight their accomplishments, their before and afters, different treatments that they've been able to perform excellently so that confidence is inspired in other team members. I remember going to a training a couple of months ago on ultrasound, and there's an injector there who has what I perceive to be a successful practice in Newport. And she was talking about the importance of not hiring clinicians who are better clinically than yourself. And I was just thinking like, wow, I would never do that. Like my goal is that my clinicians are way better than I am. And that I support their growth and nurture them because if you in your mind are like, oh, I could never have anyone exceed beyond my own skill set, then like, well, that's just limiting your business.
Well, she needs coaching.
Yeah, totally.
But I get that. And I've worked with quite a few people that are like, I don't hire A players, they're definitely going to leave. And I think that's that. Like that is the like let's talk about the elephant in the room there, because what that actually means is that I worry that it's a loss of control, right? It's a loss of control, and like it would be a loss. And if I invested so much into them, then what would happen? So I think that those are like real fears, but also what I see is this self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, I'm just going to give them like 80, maybe 60%, right? 70%. And then it's like, oh, they left. Well, I mean, see, I knew they were going to leave. And it like, well, no, they left because you put 70% into them. Would you stick around somewhere and work for somebody that wanted to invest partially into you and not really develop and grow you? Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, one just final kind of concept I want to touch on is part of this sort of transitioning back and out. And as somebody who does hold high standards and has set boundaries, and like, what has that required of you? And I'm not leading with this question. I just really am curious, like, what has that required of you to be able to step back and to allow other people on your team to really become autonomous and independent in their roles?
Discipline and trusting the process. Like just trust it. Trust. There's no, how did I do it? You just do it. You're like, this is what needs to happen. Like understanding that, like seeing myself as the roadblock, and then knowing that, oh, I don't, there's only, it's all resource allocation. There's only so many hours in a week. And if you're just, if you're just seeing patients all day, there's just no space to think and plan. So by getting intentional around what kind of patients you're seeing, then it's going to ultimately end up putting more people on your other provider schedules. And then you can actually move the needle for those injectors and focus on marketing and and mentorship and cultivating them.
Yeah. I think it's harder. It's a grieving process in a way that you go through,
Totally.
right? And so I think I talk about this a lot with people that are like, man, that it sounds good. And then you start to do it. And, then you can become the bottleneck to growth because you just continue to step in and never get through that sort of tipping point, that milestone, right?
And there's also like this like pride that comes along with, oh, I'm so good. And like everyone wants to see me. And like, I felt that. And then I like realized that I was like feeling that. And I'm like, wait, is this serving the bigger picture? No,
Yeah.
It's not serving the bigger picture. So we need to make some decisions accordingly.
Yeah.
To like what is actually our North Star, which is like not to be in patient care all day, every day.
Right.
It's to make more impact. And you cannot deliver the impact that you want that I can't deliver the impact that I want if I'm the only one delivering treatments.
Yeah. Well, as Krista always says, take the elevator to the penthouse suite. Right. And just like remind yourself, take a bigger perspective of like, okay, ultimately, what am I building here? And what's that going to require of me in this moment to ultimately become that? Yeah. So you've done that really beautifully. Okay, so my last question for you just has to do with you personally as a leader. I'm curious, over the past 9 months now, as you've been working with us, what are you most proud of yourself for accomplishing in your leadership?
Oh, I am proudest of collecting myself during a time of complete devastation and despair, and making a conscious decision to use that as inspiration instead of defeat. Mm-hmm. Like, I could have just completely crumbled and not even continue to work. But instead I leaned into that as an opportunity. And it's become part of our story. It's the core. It's it's the core of our story. The loss of my mom was the birth of Bare Skin Marin. And now I get to see my sister every day. It's so awesome. It's amazing.
It's really beautiful what you're building and inspiring. And you've been such an incredible contributor to this community. So I personally want to thank you. It's been a joy working alongside you. And I love when you just spat out the things that, someone needs to say, but no one will. We all love.
I'm so curious what questions come to mind when you say that.
What, the things that you say?
Yeah, what questions do I ask that everyone wants to know?
I just have visions of you. I think that some of the things that also, it's controversy, because when you talk about, it was one of the things that you talk about a lot that can rub people a little bit, is just, it's the type of patient. And I think it does have to do with really knowing your avatar and your most valuable buyer. And we're not going to do the 20 units of Botox, right? And so I think that kind of stuff brings up a lot of feelings for people. And I also think that it's bold moves that you made to set boundaries and protect the integrity of what you're choosing to build here, even if it meant that you were going to have to say no to people and deal with how that made you feel. And so I see it. It's more of just, it's that you just kind of asking the questions of finding good people, and why does it take so long, and why, and it's just living it out, just really authentically with all of us. So it's been a joy. So, well, thank you, Hilary. I just want to tell you how proud I am of you, and we are all following along. And for the listeners who don't know you, how can people follow you? Maybe on social or
So I'm at Bare Skin Marin, and I would love to read through everyone's questions. I don't know if we got through all of them, but if anyone wants to email me, it's Hilary. I'm going to write it here. It's really hard to spell this right. People have spelled Hilary in a lot of creative ways and Bear in a lot of creative ways, but it's one L, and then my last name is Baer. However, Bare Skin Marin is Bare, Skin Marin. That's what I know.
Awesome. Yes, I think we got to most. I tried to get to all the questions, but yeah, feel free to reach out. Hilary's not going anywhere. So thank you, Queen. And we will chat soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight, because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working to cross the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.